action to end domestic violence against women and girls in Kenya after the death of Ugandan marathon runner Rebecca Cheptegei days after being doused in petrol and set alight by her boyfriend. She was just 33 and had recently competed at the Paris Olympics.
The authorities in northwest Kenya, where she lived and trained, said she was targeted after returning home from church with her two daughters. Her killing follows the deaths of at least two other high-profile female runners in cases of domestic violence in the last 3 years in Kenya.
Well, Mercy Grace Munduru is from AAIU Uganda team. Mercy, thanks for speaking to us this morning. I mean, this is just horrific, isn't it, this particular story?
It's absolutely horrific, and even so because there have been similar cases in the recent past, but also it's a representation of the widespread gender-based violence in the East African region, and specifically in Kenya and Uganda. Just this year alone, we have seen the rise in the number of cases of femicide in both countries. And so the news of the passing of Rebecca has been met with so much pain, especially from the section of young women who were very expectant of joining the sports fraternity, having just emerged from the recently concluded Olympics. These girls are looked at as icons and beacons of hope for very many girls in the region.
And it brings back memories, doesn't it, of two previous incidents around, 2021 that were just six months apart?
Yes, we have had 3 cases so far since 2021. We had the case of Agnes Tirop, who was stabbed in 2021, but also Damaris Mutua in 2022, who was strangled. And now we have received the case of Rebecca Cheptegei, who was burnt to death. And you can see that it's a pattern, and also it's intimate partner violence, according to the way it is manifested, but also the fact that these are all very high-ranking athletes who often are met with this level of violence after competing in major competitions across the world. And so it really speaks enormously of the issues of power dynamics, especially between couples, and the reality of intimate partner violence.
But this is not just in the running community, of course. I mean, the country has high rates of violence against women, and we've seen protest marches earlier this year on the streets, haven't we?
Yes, there have been protests, especially in Kenya. We also know that 3 years before that, we had similar protests in Uganda, with women reacting to the growing cases of femicide in both countries. The rate of violence is extremely high, and violence is ranked at least the second highest crime in both countries. And yet, if you look at its manifestation vis-a-vis the actions taken by governments to respond to the very imminent threat, then you wonder if our governments actually have their priorities right. And when things like this happen, it really reawakens the actual conversation of when this will actually end. Because to end gender-based violence is not just the role of the survivors or women alone. It's a concerted effort of both the state and the communities around us. Many women and young girls are living in fear, because if a person who is looked at as who is looked at by communities as an icon can die in the hands of an intimate partner, how about the very many women in the communities whose cases do not even surface in the public sphere? There's so many more cases, and I can say that from 2023 alone, ActionAid Uganda, through its gender-based violence shelters, has received 61,564 cases. This year alone, 571. 80% of these cases are intimate partner violence, whereas some of them have not resulted into death. There have been serious injuries occasioned to women, and especially women who are either pursuing their careers in different fields, or women who have broken into the business sphere and are, sort of making a living for themselves. And these cases are perpetrated always by intimate partners.
Well, as you say, it'll be interesting to see what happens and what impact that this particular incident has, given the high-profile nature of it. Thanks for speaking to us this morning. That's Mercy Grace Munduru, who is from ActionAid Uganda team.